What's up, Tech Heart? Welcome tonight. We're going to do some cool stuff. You. Shit. What's up, Tech Heart? We're going to dive into some cool stuff tonight. In my hand, I have an A2338 2020 MacBook Pro. Pretty cool little device. But do you see what's running on there? It's not macOS. I'm over at my friend's house, and that comes with many benefits. Not only including cool art pieces, but we get to play with different computers. This one was running macOS Tahoe. That's the newest joint, right? But I wanted to play around with Asahi Linux, and I got it installed. Man, we're going to break a few things along the way, like when we try to take Asahi Linux off of here in the future, we might break stuff if we remove the wrong file system or wrong partitions. First, we got to take our 2020 MacBook Pro and install Linux. Are you guys ready to go? Come along!
Okay, so let's learn a little bit about Asahi Linux. It's a project that ports the Linux kernel and related software to Apple silicon-powered Macs. It was created by Hector Martin. By reverse engineering the system on chips, which lacked documentation from Apple, he was able to create this version of Linux that can be installed on M1 and I believe M2 Apple silicon devices. In late 2020, Linux creator Linus Torvalds expressed interest in Linux support for the Apple M1 Mac, but thought that the work to make this happen was too time-consuming for him to personally take on the necessary software development tasks. So Martin announced the project in December of 2020 and formally started work a month later in 2021. He crowdsourced funding, and Alyssa Rosenzweig, who developed the open source graphics driver stack Panfrost, joined the project to help support the Apple Silicon GPU. It's a tough project because of Apple's proprietary firmware, and it was a tough haul, but they made progress, and now we have Asahi Linux. You can head over to asahilinux.org and you'll find out that it's pretty simple to get started. All we have to do is copy this command and we enter it into a terminal. I have one open over here, but we'll check out the website a little more. We can read the Asahi Remix announcement. Fedora Asahi Remix, the most polished Linux for Apple Silicon Macs. It uses Fedora 42 and is the result of a close multi-year collaboration between Asahi Linux and the Fedora project. We get a fully integrated distro and fast improvements and bug fixes. All Asahi platform-specific packages are in upstream Fedora and fully supported in Fedora Linux 42. Fedora has excellent 64-bit ARM support and a mature development process. They offer both KDE Plasma and GNOME flavors, and with GNOME you'd get GNOME 48. It's a 100% Wayland experience, which is good in 2026. And Bob's your uncle. Asahi ships the world's first and only certified conformant OpenGL, OpenGL ES, OpenCL, and Vulkan support for Apple Silicon. Apps and games should run correctly and render as they're intended to. And yeah, man, we're about to get Linux on this M1 MacBook Pro. So, would you guys like to see how it is installed? On MacBook Air, M1 and M2 chips are supported. On MacBook Pro, M1, M1 Pro, M1 Max, M2, M2 Pro, and M2 Max are supported. Mac Mini, M1, M2, and M2 Pro. Mac Studio, M1 Max, M1 Ultra, M2 Max, and M2 Ultra. And on iMac, the M1. Mac Pros should be coming soon. Now I see down here on features, it looks like speakers, USB-C displays, Thunderbolt, USB 4, and microphone may have issues. We'll test this out and see what we get on this 2020 A2338 MacBook Pro. So I'm sold. Let's spin over to a terminal. And literally, all we do to start is paste in that curl command that I'll put on screen. Unlike other Linux distros where we burn an ISO file to a USB stick, all the installation happens right here. So let me press enter. The Asahi installer needs to run as root, so we'll enter a password and we'll follow along. This installer will guide you through the process of setting up Asahi Linux on your Mac. Please make sure you're familiar with our documentation at alx.sh/w. I'm going to open that real quick just to see if it's anything different from what we've already looked at. So note, we have new documentation on Asahi Linux. I'd suggest you come over and peruse this if you're not sure about installing Linux on your Apple Silicon. This will contain all the info that I don't have in this noggin. I'm ready to continue, so I'll press enter, and it's going to collect system information. And on this particular MacBook Pro, I have a 500 gigabit hard drive. You can see that right here on partition number 1, which is 494 gigabytes. So what I'm going to do to make room for Asahi Linux is resize an existing partition to make space for a new OS, which will be Asahi Linux. The only other option is to quit without doing anything. So I'll select resize, and it'll give us information about our current Macintosh hard drive, and it says, enter the new size for your existing partition. You can enter a size such as 1 gigabyte, a fraction such as 50%, or the word min for the smallest allowable size. Out of my 494 gigabit partition, I'm gonna leave 350 gigabytes for macOS. That'll give us around 150 gigabytes for Asahi Linux. That'll be enough for me in this video. Do note that the 350 gigabytes denotes the amount of space to leave for macOS, not to create for Asahi Linux. So choose what you need. Resizing will free up 144 gigabytes of space. Note, your system may appear to freeze during the resize. This is normal, just wait until the process completes. So I'll select continue, yes, and the Asahi installer should do the rest. It's going to shrink our main macOS partition and create that free space for Asahi. Resize complete, press enter to continue. Now it's collecting system information again, and we can see we don't have a new partition, but we do have free space, that 144 gigabits. It's using OS Macintosh hard drive for machine authentication. Choose what to do. Install an OS into free space. We can resize a partition again if we made a mistake or we want to play around again, but we're going to install Asahi onto the free space with F, and then it says choose an OS to install. Fedora Asahi Remix 42 with KDE Plasma, or with GNOME, or Server, which would give you a minimal plus some extra tools and utilities but no GUI, or minimal, which would just basically be a terminal experience that you could build off. You also have option 5, UEFI environment only, M1 plus U-boot plus ESP. If you're a macOS diehard, GNOME might be a good option for you, but I'm going to install KDE Plasma, so I'll choose OS option number 1 for KDE, and it's going to download the OS package info. It needs 33 gigabits as a minimum, but we have 144 available. How much space should be allocated to the new OS? You can enter a size such as 1 gigabyte, a fraction such as 50%, the word min for the smallest allowable size, or the word max to use all available space. So I'm going to select max to use that 144 gigabytes, and we'll have to enter a name for our OS. I'm going to put Asahi. I believe that'll be the host name. Using macOS 13.5 for OS firmware, downloading the macOS package info, creating a new stub macOS named Asahi, and installing that stub macOS onto the 144 gigabits. We'll let that all finish up. Setting up data volume, setting up pre-boot volume, setting up recovery volume. I believe with Asahi installed, you still have access to Apple's recovery mode. We'll check that. And then it adds our partition EFI, our partition boot, and our partition root. Does some firmware stuff. And now it's extracting a boot image to the boot partition and a root image to the root partition. Cool. Now it downloads some extra files. To continue the installation, you'll have to enter your macOS admin credentials. So you'll enter your user password, and now it's setting the new OS as the default boot volume. We can change that later if desired. Okay, installation successful. The Asahi team asks, help us improve Asahi Linux. We'd love to know how many people are installing Asahi and on what kind of hardware. Would you mind sending a one-time installation report to us? This will only report what kind of machine you have, the OS you're installing, basic version info, and the rough install size. You can view the exact data that will be sent. Now, normally I'd say view the data, but I don't want to share that with YouTube. However, I do want to share the data with the Asahi team. So for report your install, I'll select yes. And there we go. Our install has been counted. Thank you. There's more information here. To be able to boot your new OS, you will need to complete one more step. Please read the following instructions carefully. Failure to do so will leave your new installation in an unbootable state. So it's important that we read the following. When the system shuts down, follow these steps. Wait 25 seconds for the system to fully shut down. Press and hold down the power button to power on the system. It is important that the system be fully powered off before this step, and that you press and hold down the button once, not multiple times. times. This is required to put the machine into the right mode, which is, I believe, the recovery mode, or where you can select what hard drive to boot from. Release it once you see loading startup options or a spinner. Wait for the volume list to appear. Choose Asahi. You will briefly see a macOS recovery dialog. If you are asked to select a volume to recover, then choose your normal macOS volume and click Next. That's important. If we're asked to select a volume to recover, choose our normal macOS volume and click Next. You may need to authenticate yourself with your macOS credentials. Once the Asahi Linux installer screen appears, follow the prompts. If you end up in a boot loop or get a message telling you that macOS needs to be reinstalled, that means you didn't follow the above steps properly. Fully shut down your system without doing anything and try again. If in trouble, hold down the power button to boot, select macOS, run this installer again, and choose the P option to retry the process. What I suggest is pulling out your cell phone and taking a picture of these instructions, and keep those open as you do the next steps. I'm going to press Enter to shut down the system, and I'll catch you back when we reboot. Okay, here we are. I'm going to hold down the power button and wait until I see loading startup options. So I'm holding down the power button. Continue holding for startup options. And now it says loading startup options. I can let go at this point. Okay, I can see Asahi right there. So I believe we're supposed to select Asahi. And I'll press continue. Here's our macOS recovery dialog, but it went away. Asahi Linux installer, second step. You will see some messages advising you that you are changing the security level of your system. These changes apply only to your Asahi Linux install and are necessary to install a third-party OS. Apple Silicon platforms maintain a separate security level for each installed OS and are designed to retain their security with mixed OSs. The security level of your macOS install will not be affected. You will be prompted for your login credentials 2 times. Please enter your macOS credentials for the macOS that you used to run the first step of the installation. Press Enter to continue. Okay. This utility is not meant for normal users or even sysadmins. It provides unobstructed access to capabilities which are normally handled for the user automatically when changing the security policy through GUIs such as the Startup Security utility in macOS Recovery. It is possible to make your system security much weaker and therefore easier to compromise using this tool. This tool is not to be used in production environments. It is possible to render your system unbootable with this tool. It should only be used to understand how the security of Apple Silicon Macs works. Use at your own risk. Authorize user, so I'll enter my username and password. Local policy update is in progress. Please wait. And here we go. We get a lot of information, and it says by setting a custom boot object, you will be putting your system into permissive security. Are you sure you want to do this? Enter yes or no. I'm going to say yes, and we'll give it a username and a password. Wrapping up. Installation complete. Press Enter to reboot. Oh yeah! Look at that! Asahi Linux and Fedora, alive on our 2020 MacBook Pro. Did it work for you? I'll catch you in the Asahi OS in a minute. We do have one more step before we can get back to the screen capture, and I want to just show this. It's the initial Fedora setup. So I'll click Next. I'll select my time zone. Los Angeles will do. My keyboard. And I'll give the computer a name. TechHard. And I'll give a password of TechHard. Everything looks good. And we're all done. Now I'll catch you back here. We have the welcomer. Tells us how to access the internet. Yeah, it looks like we get connected. That's good. Plasma is simple by default, powerful when needed. It tells us all the things we have available. It's just a basic Fedora. We're going to say disable all telemetry, and we can get started. Now let me pull up a website, Asahi Linux, and let's go back. Where did we see, is it in the announcement? Let's go down here. And yeah, so different things work for different devices. I'm going to click my MacBook Pro, and down here it says USB displays, so that's exactly why I can't connect my external monitor or capture card. Thunderbolt USB 4, and Touch ID does not work. Speakers on other devices were affected on one of these. I saw that. Speakers on the iMac. So we'll test that out here. We can open our settings, I think. And let's go to sound. And we'll do a test. Okay, so we have audio. That's good. Let's see if we can do a software update real quick. I believe we can use the Discover app to do updates, which they're currently fetching, or you can use the terminal. I'm just going to show it using Discover. We can just go up here to update all and let it finish up. It's needing 7 gigabytes of updates, so that's pretty substantial. Updating 1,166 packages. But after this, we'll be all good. Okay, it wants us to restart the system to complete the update. I'll meet you right back here. Looks like it had some firmware updates because we had to wait for this. And after it's done, we get a reboot. With Fedora being completely updated. Nice! It tells us Plasma has been updated to Plasma 6.5. Very nice. Things that are working, if I just pan down, you can see the touch bar has the F1 keys, and our backlight works and can be modified through the Fedora settings. Right down here in the brightness tab, you can control the backlight and the keyboard backlight from right here. It'll be cool to see in the future if they get more touch bar support and have those options on the touch bar. We are running 100% Wayland, and we have gestures. 4-finger up opens the desktops. And then if I add one here, I believe I'll see the space down here on the taskbar, and I can do a 3-finger swipe. We can add as many desktops as we like by clicking the plus button. I like 4. Now, we could even go check out gaming on Asahi Linux with a little Super Tux cart. Nice! It has no problems keeping up with 60 FPS like Super Tux cart do. And easy peasy. Now, we want to get Asahi off of here safely. Let's talk about that. So to remove Asahi, the first thing we'll do is a full shutdown. Now we'll boot and hold the power button. We want to get into those options. Once it says loading startup options, you can let go. We're going to want to reselect our Mac HD, and we'll hold down the control button so it says always use. Now it'll boot into macOS, baby! Now that macOS is the main boot, I'm going to push the power button and hold it again. We'll go into recovery mode to get rid of Asahi. From here we want the options, because we're looking for a terminal, baby! And we can roll right up to utilities and terminal. I'll make it bigger for y'all. And we'll do a disk util APFS list. Now, we're going to go through here and we're going to see where our Asahi lives. I think I have 5 containers, and they'll have different names. So here's container disk 3. I can go down here. Ooh, and yeah, I see Asahi, data, Asahi. So that was disk 3. And down here on disk 4, we can see that's our Macintosh hard drive. And its various stuff, recovery, etc., etc. I think disk 6 is the recovery, or base system. But at any rate, our disk 3 is going to be our Asahi. So we'll do a disk util APFS unmount container disk 3. If that doesn't work, we can do an unmount disk. Oops. Okay. If you ever had to break out the big guns, you can also do an unmount disk force, but we're good. Now we're going to delete the container. disk util, APFS, delete, container, disk 3. Well, that's good. Asahi's gone. We can see that by doing another list. And now we've only got 4 containers, mainly our Macintosh hard drive. But we need to reclaim the space. We'll go up and find our Macintosh hard drive again, which is disk 4. So we'll do a disk util, APFS, resize, container, disk 4. Oops, I had to put a 0 on the end of that. 0 means use all available space. And just like that, your main macOS partition will have all of the space of your hard drive, just like Asahi Linux was never installed. Booyah!
So Rockstars, what do we think? Do you have one of these 2020 M1 Mac Minis? I think they're pretty useful in 2026, and I like Asahi Linux. Let me know in the comments below if you're going to play around with Asahi, and if it remains on your system. Go ahead and get a sub and a like if you stuck around this far, it really helps! Till next time, Tech Heart, oh!